is fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. Again, that's
I have a special guest joining us in a second here.
We know that the telephone line doesn't allow, obviously, for the uploading of video or photographs. This website does allow for that. And our partnership with the FBI, which has been excellent throughout the evening, they quickly stood up this resource to allow us to comb through additional evidence or tips as they may come in. The Providence Police also has a specific tip line now for this incident. That phone number is 401-652-5767. Again, that's 401-652-5767. That's the Providence Police tip line specifically for this incident. Before I turn it over to the governor, I just want to speak to the shelter in place that remains in effect for the Brown campus. And
we just saw this gentleman on Boston 10. I want to welcome in the great Todd McGhee. How are you doing tonight, Todd?
Hey, Brian, I'm glad you reached out. How's everything going?
I'm well. Very tragic situation going on in and around Brown University. We're getting an update here. Pretty much the same stuff that I'm hearing that, I just don't think they have too much information that's going on or any new updates that they can share. It's very interesting because I know that area. I've spent a lot of time down there when I was a kid in the 90s. Very tight, congested area. You look at the possibility of the highway only being blocks from that area, probably 4 or 5 blocks to get on to either side of 95. We saw what they think is an active, the active shooter that left that area on foot. What is what is the process that's going through right now? Are they probably combing security? Take us through this type of process, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got more than 400 officers that showed up in this this investigation, but specifically, you're going to have a team, most likely FBI resources that are going to stitch through all of the CCTV. What's important about this? The video that was released shows a direction of travel. That will then allow them to, you think of an overhead image of a map, that will allow them to identify properties that may have CCTV if it's a commercial building or a Ring doorbell if it's a residential building. And they'll capture that video and they'll have the ability to stitch that information together and almost create a video that you would watch.
Like a timeline.
A timeline that'll help establish a timeline. So that's most important. Part of that process, if the individual took off his mask at some point to try and blend into the community, there's the first opportunity to hopefully get a face. Now, let's compare this to Luigi Mangione, the assassin of the United Healthcare worker. The original images that were released of him he was masked in every single image, but eventually we got still images of his face. I believe it was at a hotel or someplace where he was required to show an identification. But there's the opportunity to get a good look at somebody. So hopefully they can mirror the same process that they did in that case and put a face to this shooter.
Sure. If you're just joining us live here right now, I have retired Mass State Police and security consultant Todd McGhee. Todd, so FBI comes in the area, Providence Police comes in the area. Are they going through their kind of combing the area for evidence? What type of things would they be looking for? Give us some updates. What they could be doing in the area right now.
Yeah, the investigation is going to be a layered investigation. It always is. They'll be looking for and capturing. They've already identified ballistics. What's important about that is the ATF is also there as a federal partner. The ATF has a robust library of all firearms. So if that firearm was purchased, whatever, it's in a database, and they'll be able to line up the striations and the rifling marks on the ballistics, the casings, whatever they have available, and that will lead them to identify at least the weapon system for starters. And then from there, hopefully they can match it up to a gun owner or someone who may have purchased a firearm. That also, in conjunction with the digital CCTV footage that we talked about, that's going to be another
Mhm.
team that's going through and watching video and putting that timeline together. Then, of course, you have another team of people that are going to be doing the interviews, eyewitness accounts. What did you see? Where were you in proximity to the shooting? Um, what was your purpose here inside this building? It's still unclear if the students inside that classroom were actually taking an exam or were they studying. But nonetheless, what were the specifics about the occupants inside of the building and inside of the classroom? So all of the boots on the ground investigators will capture that information.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, and a lot of the people in the chat have been watching tonight. We're seeing kind of the loop video here of the gait of this gentleman's walk or this person's walk, and I don't even want to say gentleman. I'm sorry, it's but seeing that specific walk, it looks like there's a little bit of a limp. This could be something that's very telling to someone that's watching, like, oh, that kind of looks like a friend or an uncle or someone that I've just seen recently. And like I said, I'm hoping too, like you said, with that direction of travel, maybe we have some ring camera footage or even Tesla cameras. I know Tesla cars have cameras. Someone said that in the chat too. Hey, check your Tesla camera if you have, your car parked on the street of that area. And I know that area is pretty saturated with CCTV, so I'm sure they're going to catch or get some other distinct photos or video of this suspect.
Yeah, 100%, Brian. This is where, the classic see something, say something comes in. And, this is law enforcement can't do this work by themselves. They need the community to share whatever, even if it's a lead that turns out to be nothing, it's
Yeah,
a lead that they don't have to follow. Right. So now you go back to other 70% good information or 90% good information. So any information that people have is going to be good, even if it turns out to be nothing. So, I want to encourage anyone that might be in close proximity to this area. Maybe they have a friend or a loved one that goes to Brown University or works on campus. Don't be shy about holding information back. Law enforcement needs that level of support.
yeah, and the things that they might be even looking for too, if they see some extended footage, how you said that direction of travel, maybe some other camera footage comes up of somewhere where he might have stopped or touched something or put his hand somewhere. That's always a good possibility too. That's how they catch a lot of these people. I know. What was it, Rex Heuermann? The Long Island murder. They caught him by literally getting a piece of pizza and doing some DNA testing,
DNA testing, yeah.
Anything like that, any area that they may have touched or been around, I'm sure that's going to be a focus of study as well too.
I always say there's no perfect crime. And, the forensic capabilities that law enforcement has it's just remarkable. And, sometimes, here in my home, we like the crime shows and we watch them
Yeah.
and, you see how investigators are really leveraging DNA. And, it's just one layer, right? That's just one layer. In this particular case, Governor Healy mentioned that Mass State Police are on standby and they'll have the assets of the air wing. You'll have assets of canine, right? We're at a manhunt. We're right back to Luigi Mangione.
Yeah.
We're right back to, the Zarnaev brothers on a manhunt back from the 2013 marathon bombing. So, all of this information is all of these different resources are going to be really important to get this guy off the streets.
Could you see door-to-door searches if they had to do that? Could you see something like that, a scenario come up?
I could see if, and this is what happened in the Watertown arrest of the Zarnaev youngest
Yeah.
brother, that there was unusual movement. He was hiding in a boat, and literally law enforcement converged on a home, a residence in the community of Watertown, and literally took him out of a boat in a backyard.
Yeah. Let's go up to this presser, Todd. We'll see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Fue el responsable y también el alcalde dio diferentes tip lines que la tienes en la website de la policía de Providence. Te las puedo dar que el número es el 401 652 5763. 3, y ese es el Departamento de la Policía de Providence. Y también el FBI tiene otro website en el cual, si tú tienes cualquier tipo de evidencia,
They're looking for tips,
tipo
definitely.
de
And I had the
fotos
tip
o
line down
cualquier
below,
información importante, lo pueden mandar al departamento,
401-727-3121.
al website que es la
If you have a tip. And I know you have a spot on BBC
la
at
raya,
midnight.
de atrás,
If you
Brown
need to jump off
University
before that and
Shooting.
relax, it's
Ahí
no
puedes
problem. I
encontrar, si necesitas más
appreciate
información,
you
llama al
jumping up
departamento que ahí te la vamos
and
a dar.
giving us your
Muchísimas gracias.
expert
Thank you,
opinion
Todd.
on
It's
this.
pretty much one day.
Yeah, glad you reached out. There's a lot of layers to this thing. Oh, there always is.
Yeah, I saw it. We were live streaming and went, I was like, oh, wait, there's Todd. And then I was like, oh, this is live. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if he had like a minute to jump up. And then, here we are. We connected. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
you helped me stay awake before my midnight
This
interview.
is fluid, right? And that's where we're happy.
I
That's
just
where
seen it. I was
it's
like, this is
maintained.
really
That's where the
late.
department is concentrated. That's where we want to make sure we have operational control of that area. It's fluid, it's dangerous. We want to make sure that that's the area that we're concentrating at this point because that's where it occurred.
Is there also a reason to protect that area?
Well, in the sense of that's where it occurred. We're still fresh. Again, I just told you earlier that we're canvassing the area. We want to make sure that we're not going to read door. We want to make sure that we identify
So they are
any
door
evidence that we need to
knocking.
collect.
Yeah.
It takes time. It's ballistics that we may need to seize. It's all part of the evidence. And we want to make sure that we have the time, resources, and the space that is untouched so that we can seize the evidence that we need.
Is there no video from inside the classroom that would help people get a better look at?
So that's the video that the mayor released earlier that we have, and we're looking at all the footage. And once we have more that is helpful, we're going to release it.
Right, but I'm saying inside.
You've been listening to officials in Providence giving us an update on the shooting at Brown University today. There was one piece of new information here as it relates to the shelter in place. Tomorrow morning, if you want to go about your business, you are permitted to do so, even if there is no development with the suspect apprehension tonight. So that seems to be the big headline from this latest press conference.
And officials also noting that they know that the video they released didn't have quite a clear image of that suspect, but they are actively requesting the public's help with video and photos. They've also set up a tip website, fbi.gov/Brown University shooting. All right, let's turn things now to meteorologist Sydney Welch because we do have weather.
Todd, what do you make of that to let people out and say, do you think they think the suspect is out of that area?
Tough to tell.
Yeah.
They're probably very hesitant about, too much government. This is me speculating, not
Sure.
that I have any inside track on that, but they probably don't want to over control people's movement. And, it's sensitive. People got to work, people got to do, grocery shopping, people got to live. So, it's a very delicate balance. But what we saw in the marathon bombing manhunt was they put several communities on lockdown.
Yeah.
And it worked. And they were able to flush out the younger brother at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're kind of opening this up so quickly. Question from DA Boston asking Todd how difficult it will be for the with the incoming snowstorm to search for evidence.
Yeah, DA Boston, great question. Inclement weather always offers a challenge. Kind of the silver lining for the investigation is that the incident happened during dry weather, and if there's any, and also a lot of the activity took place inside of a building. So the manhunt. It won't be compromised by the weather in the event that they use canines. Canines are fantastic. They work through all those different changes of the environment. But if you had a crime scene outside and you had inclement weather coming in and you were searching for evidence, that could be problematic. But as far as manhunt for the individual, if they can have a lead on him and get a track on him, I don't think the weather will play any. It won't be anything detriment to the investigation.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for Todd, please drop them in the chat. Let's go to CBS Boston. And I know anytime you have to jump off, Todd, just let me know. I know you have a spot on BBC at midnight. Let's see what's going on here.
pocket. Now, that could mean he has a firearm inside the pocket. It could also mean that there's a slice in the pocket and he's got his hand inside holding a rifle. This was a very purposeful walk that the man was exhibiting in the picture. The other thing is, there's a really good clear look at the clothing he was wearing. Dark clothing as a general description isn't helpful, but when you see that 3/4 length jacket pulled up, the particular type of hat he had, and I think most importantly, his size, his height and weight estimates, when he's walking by that signal post with very little geometry and camera angles, you can get a pretty precise height on that guy just by analyzing the video. So there's a wealth of information there that the police are going to be able to use to try to get us honed in on who this guy is.
So Cherry's asking, will they use heat sensors during the night to look for him?
Yeah, if they deploy the air wing, the air wing has some wonderful equipment attached to it. And if anyone's trying to hide in the woods or anything like that, they stick out like a sore thumb. They
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't hide with those things.
If you ever want to go watch stuff like that, like you can look on YouTube, like just go out in like LA, you see a lot of the footage out there from the helicopters, and they'll use those heat sensors, and you can see people like running through backyard. They look like, almost like ghosts, running through the back. They light up pretty hot. That heat sensor will, from the it almost looks like an old negative. When you take pictures back in the day and develop film, that's kind of what you look like.
Yeah, it's
that's
phenomenal
a great
technology.
That's a really great question. All right, let's go back up here.
I can tell you from personal experience that it takes a long time to sift through this stuff. It's not what you see on television where they press a button and they say, give us all the video on Hope Street. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes it's door-to-door, shoe leather detective work that is required before you get your hands on the data, and then analysts have to go through it. This might be a day, it might be 2 days, it might be 3 days, but we'll see better pictures of this guy. I guarantee it.
Let me take it one step further on that video. Judging from what we've seen there, is that a gait that a classmate or somebody who knows that person would recognize them from?
This is definitely something that's going to be important. That gait is unusual. And it's not the gait of a college student, in my estimation. I think you're dealing with a much older guy. One of the police officials, the deputy chief, said somebody in their 30s. This guy might be even older than that, in my estimation. But they'll have a lot of experts looking at this to give you the best estimates that they can. It might be a younger guy with some kind of leg problem, but this is not a kid.
Ed Davis, we so appreciate your insight and your expertise tonight, and thank you for being with us on what has been a really terrifying night in Providence and an unnerving.
Someone was saying earlier in the chat, Todd, seeing that walk, maybe a previous military or, an injury, something like that. A lot of the times we find out that some of these, active shooters have some type of military or government background.
Yeah, that's true. We have seen that, and that PTSD, it can take someone to some very dark places. That gait, along with the clothing, direction of travel, you can see how things start to develop.
Let's see if we got another feed here. And then when you go on BBC, we're gonna go over to that later so we can watch you over there. It all is kind of quiet on the feeds right now. Let's see. I think this is from previous.
Walk behind the stand that have been in.
I mean, I know the students are anxious, and I know they're in very constant communication with loved ones.
Could this active shooter have, hid the gun like Charlie Kirk? Yeah, I guess anything is possible. We didn't see the shooter or, potential suspect leave that area with a type of firearm. And I don't know if it was a pistol or a rifle. I don't know, Todd, did you hear anything about that? A pistol or a rifle?
No, they haven't released information as far as the type of weapon system. But if he did discard the weapon, canines will be able to get a track from the ballistics collected as evidence, and then from there, you deploy your dogs in the direction of travel, and if he tosses it in a yard or in a bush or in a trash can, the dogs will get you close, if not right to the actual weapon. So if it's not on him anymore, there's a very good chance that a canine search will turn up the firearm.
Yeah. No, yeah, I did play that from earlier. I guess it was a pretty tough question to the president of the university, and said, it's been about 6 hours later and you still are saying that you have no idea what went on your campus. So she's facing some backlash from the media right now.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead, Todd. I'm sorry.
I was watching that, and I wish she would have brought a communications person, because they're trained to be able to handle those types of questions from the reporters. And one option could have been, like the law enforcement investigation, we are still gathering information as to the students, their presence inside that specific classroom, but to give a shoulder shrug is just not a good look.
Yeah, and it just goes back to, and I know you take this very serious because you're in the business of security. And yeah, you can talk, and I don't want to get down on the university. I don't know their practices. I'm just saying that I think sometimes in these situations that things like security, might be just kind of surface level. We have it's an infrastructure, it's in place, but they may not be actively practicing. And I don't know their practices there, so I don't want to put anything, but I just look at things like this, and that's why I know you take this very serious, and you take on some pretty big projects to just let them know, like, this really needs to be taken serious. It can't just be glazed over and just say, "Oh, we have security."
Well, Brian, it was reported earlier that, again, this is a building that finals were happening, and the doors on the street were unlocked. They were unsecured.
Yeah.
Come on. You can't have that. And for these reasons, you can't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be, these areas, and I'm sure you talk about this all the time, in these security areas, even student buildings, badge in, badge out. If they have a badge system or someone that monitors the doors or however it may be. And I'm sure that's going to be a lot of question too. Why were those doors open? Is there a badging system? Why was it not in place? These are the types of questions that are probably going to come up from hundreds of parents, and especially those parents that lost, children tonight. This is tragic. I mean, we're what, less than a week and a half away from Christmas, and this is what some of these families have to deal with, and the trauma of the students too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Brian, I always say, criminals are opportunists, and they're lazy. They look for the easiest way to victimize. And if you're going to leave your doors unlocked, well, guess what? They're going to exploit you. And they're going to walk right through your front door. They're going to do damage. And then they're going to walk out like it was a 7-Eleven and go about their business. And everyone is left caught in the carnage in the aftermath of the event. So, I'm sorry, but security is not about convenience. It's about keeping everyone secure.
I agree. Let's see here. Oh, we got people running.
End of year exams. CCTV apparently shows the suspect leaving Hope Street. Doesn't show really an awful lot of detail, we expect, but the clothing is either black or dark grey. Some people had reported to authorities that he was wearing a mask, but they say that detail isn't confirmed. The CCTV does not show a gun, but they say there is video inside the building. Carl, I'm sure you noticed this as well. There is very good CCTV inside the building.
Okay,
officers are combing through that.
Someone in the chat saying, won't let me leave a super chat. That's fine. Thank you for being here and just watching anyway. So I'll drop what I know. Are you ready? Sure. If you want to type here, if you live in and around that area, sure. Let us know what you got, and maybe we can talk about that here.
I will be collating all tips that come into authorities. CCTV continues to be combed through.
And this is the thing. I mean, there's just not any information coming through. Let's go back up to Providence.
I could respond back to DA Boston,
Sure.
saying, could it be someone holding the door for another? They didn't have to. The doors were unlocked. This gunman could have just helped himself and walked right in.
Let's see.
On foot. There was a moment here where there were about 5 RIPTA buses that were packed from front to back with students arriving here for safe haven. This has been a landing spot for many of them as we have been pulling them from across the campus as the.
So Cheryl's asking, Todd, what is the best camera for a house, fairly quiet area? What would you recommend?
You know, the Ring doorbell is very sufficient, but Amazon has dozens of home surveillance cameras. Some of them are operating off of solar, so you don't even have to hardwire them. And they're not expensive. For a few hundred, under $1,000, you can have cameras all around your house.
Yeah. And then usually a lot of them just run right through your cloud. I've had security cameras, in and around my studio that just ran right into my cloud, and you get video and just extrapolate that. Let's hear from the student here.
I felt like at first I just thought it was something like way off campus or something like, and then when I found out it was directly next to me, just like it's still hard to grasp.
This is a really hard time, and this just shows exactly why gun violence is such a problem in the United States, and it's something that needs to be taken care of.
I am super proud of my students that they took good care of themselves and for each other in this terrible, terrible incident.
Can't confirm it's going to be safe until they have. Like, I understand why everything has to be this way, because they can't ensure our safety until they have the guy.
Yeah, and now the latest bus, the RIPTA bus, has arrived, dropping off even more students. And I think the big question is, what happens over the next few hours? Because it's yet to be determined, I guess, how long until police officers are going to be able to find the person responsible for this. So we don't know how long until students will really feel safe here. And because of that, they've all been brought here. But over the next few hours, you have to think, are they sleeping here? When will meals be provided? All of that kind of stuff. And so we're going to have to really find out what the next couple of hours are going to look like for the, again, hundreds of students that have arrived here at the athletic complex. And it seems likely that they won't be able to go until it's deemed safe, at least for the surrounding Brown University area. In Providence, Leanna Falk, back to you.
Leanna, we see a lot of students that were walking behind you. Were those just dropped off by another bus?
Yes, and another bus just arrived as well. Paul, let's get off sticks really quickly. Yeah, you can just turn and you can see this is 2 RIPTA buses. You can see them back to back, and they're both filled from front to back with students. Or people who were associated with the Brown University campus. So these are buses that have been arriving every 10, 15 minutes or so over the past 3 hours. It's picked up most recently, but again, these are all students, and they are all here essentially looking for safety and security amidst this tragedy.
Leanna Falk, live and seen in Providence for us this evening. Leanna, thank you. We also have brand new video just in. This is from inside one of the buildings at Brown University. We don't know which building this is. You can see the students sheltering in place here. It's kind of shot quickly, but there's a lot of students huddled together. And this one, students hiding under desks. It looks like they've barricaded themselves with some chairs there. And you can see them just hiding out. Here's another vantage point of students crowded into a room together. Some of these, it's different in each of them. Some of them, they're casually talking. Other ones, you can see they're under the desks, clearly terrified, very understandably so, after this gunman opened fire.
And that gunman is still on the loose tonight, and you can see those students just sitting in there under their desks, standing shoulder.
Yeah, what are the standard practices, Todd, in an area where you tell you to lock down? If you can just give us some basic information, if people ever, caught in a situation like this at a university, or maybe they're out at a shopping mall, what's the best scenario to shelter in place?
Well, the standard, the 3 options are always run, hide, fight. Fight is the last resort. Run if you can, if it's safe to do so. But specifically in a lockdown, you barricade your door with whatever you have available. But the key thing is understanding which way the door opens. If the door opens to the lobby, then you don't have the ability to physically lock the door, then the threat can pull the door and gain access. So, you really have to be mindful about the space that you're in. The other issue is that if you're in close proximity to the shooter, once you barricade and get yourself safe, then you want to get as low as possible. If the gunman shoots inside of your space, most likely they're going to be at chest height, and at chest height, the bullets would go over you as opposed to finding you. So, those are just really basic, rudimentary ways to keep yourself safe in the event there's a threat close proximity to where you're at.
If you're in and around maybe a fire extinguisher, is it always best to kind of arm yourself with something like that, or?
100%. Fire extinguishers, any blunt object to be used as a weapon. So while you're keeping yourself safe, I'm looking around for anything that I can use as an improvised weapon.
Yeah, and it's believe me, that stuff that comes out of fire extinguishers is not fun.
Oh,
To
it's
get that
nasty.
stuff sprayed in your eyes or your mouth. So we have someone joining us this evening. It's been a while since he's been on the channel. Mazza Media jumping in. How you doing, Mazza?
Doing all right. I'm just gonna come on briefly. I've been to this area before a couple of years back. Me and a couple of friends went to Dirk's Barbecue, which is on Thayer Street, which is about a block west of Brown University, and it was a Saturday night when we went. One thing I can tell you about this area is the school. There's a school campus, then there's the main strip of restaurants. There's a lot of restaurants. It's a big hangout spot. It's no different than it's a dressed down version of the North End, or similar to Plymouth, where it's just constantly a lot of stores. There's a lot of activity. College kids are out and about, at bars, restaurants all night long. But it's also a residential area as well. So it blends with a lot of off-campus housing.
Yeah.
A lot of houses in the area, apartments, all in that area as well. So it's a very unique area. Down there in Rhode Island, east of Providence. So one of the things that's been speculated throughout the night, that there's the potential, we saw this with the shocking turn of events with the Boston Marathon bombing, where suddenly something happened on MIT's campus. It's one of those things where someone said tonight that, is it possible this could have been a Brown student, or could it have not been? And again, you never know where this suspect has gone to. Could he have gone back, been a student, gone back to campus, or could he have lived nearby? Now, the Warwick Airport is about, 20 minutes south
Correct.
of Providence.
Yep.
So there's a lot of ways the suspect could potentially, either stay in the area but discreetly, or just flee the state altogether. I don't know what's happening, but I just wanted to add to the element of the area. It's unpredictable.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, that, in and around that area where Brown is, and I know this because I spent a lot of time down there. I used to hang out on Thayer Street in the 90s and, hit all the record stores and the punk rock shops. And, it was a very punk rock area, and it became very hipster, in the 2000s. But, Todd and I were talking about this earlier, that the highway to 95, you can get on either side of the highway, 95 north or south, probably within 3 or 4 blocks of Brown University. So if this guy, had a car, or this person, had a car in and around that area, they could get on the highway within 5 to 8 minutes, pending some traffic lights, and slip out of that area. And things that we don't know. We don't know if he had any help, if there was a driver, anything like that. So, yeah, it's just, it's crazy. I mean, this person could be out of the area right now and, hours down the road. We don't know.
Yeah. The Buffalo Bills, who are playing the Patriots tomorrow in Gillette, they're actually in Providence tonight in their hotels. And I guess their hotel was not far away, but they're all safe. One of my great friends lives in Providence, and she's okay. So me and her texted a couple hours ago. She's good. So they were indoors all night, which was great news. So I was happy to hear that. Obviously, it was a university matter, but still, you just never know. Something like this could spill out off campus, like we saw with the Boston Marathon MIT shooting that ended up escalating into the streets of Watertown. But that's, I'm kind of getting those vibes. Like, this reminds me a little bit of I'm thinking back to the nightclub fires that happened 22 years ago. I'm thinking a little bit of the Boston Marathon bombing. And then, of course, just every shooting that's happened in this country. But yeah, it's crazy. But this one definitely hits close to home. The Providence, Boston area is always, for a lot of us, been a big area. So.
Yeah, DA Boston says +1. Oh, that's right. 195 is right there. You could cross over the Henderson Bridge right in East Providence to Seekonk. There's Route 6 Seekonk. You got 44 that's right there. That's another major way in and around, Seekonk, Swansea, Fall River, and then continue right over into the border into Massachusetts or go right into Connecticut. It's so close.
You know what we've seen, Brian and Maz, that in all these active shooters, it seems like there's great planning, but there's very poor planning on their exit strategy.
Right.
And so, we're hoping that this follows suit where, mistakes will be made and the authorities, someone will identify the gunman and then, bring that level of information over to law enforcement to them to follow up with.
What are your thoughts? This was a concern raised on Channel 5. I'm not sure if the guy was a cop who was on the network earlier tonight, but one of the concerns he raised, Todd, was that, given it's winter time and, there's a lot of winter hats, people wear scarves, sometimes people wear ski masks. Now, the suspect, obviously, if this had been summertime, for example, they'd probably stand out a little bit more, because this time of year, and in a very very populated area, of course, this time of year, there's a lot of people wearing winter hats and maybe potentially for ski masks and scarves. Do you think that definitely adds a higher layer of difficulty to identifying someone, especially seeing a lot of buildings in that area are either multi-family or even apartment-based buildings?
Yeah, great question. And I would ask everyone to think back to the original images that were released on Mangione, Luigi Mangione, and all of those images. The first initial images that came out were of him being masked, and it was at best he had kind of bushy eyebrows. That was really kind of the only indicator that you can make, but with a man behind a mask. But eventually, the more CCTV footage, the more information, digital information that was released, eventually they found him without any face covering. And I would think that this will also fall in suit the same way, where eventually over time they'll stitch together all the CCTV and all the ring footage. And at some point, just human nature, you got to take that stuff off. And hopefully it'll be in a very public way that was captured in some type of CCTV.
Yeah. Let's go here. What you got to pop off in a second, right, Todd? You have a
spot. I got
for...
like 1 more minute, Brian.
Okay. Yeah, Todd's going to have a spot on BBC. We'll pop over there on the feed and watch his spot. I'm going to turn up the sound here.
May show an image of that suspect. And while Brown and the surrounding neighborhood are sheltering in place tonight, people are reeling from this deadly attack far from campus.
WBZ's Louisa Moeller is live in Providence with that part of the story. She's been talking to people at the reunification center that was set up by authorities there.
Yeah, Ken, Lisa, I'm at this athletic center at the heart of Brown's campus, which has become the reunification center primarily for students. If you take a look behind me and you can see in the distance there, those glass doors where we've seen students.
And real quick, I mean, this is, we're on for almost 6 hours out now. And, this suspect could be anywhere at this point. And, and that's what I was saying earlier is there's just so many access points to get out of this. It's so quick to get to major highways in the matter of minutes. It is very scary. It's a very, very scary time in and around the Brown University area. I'm gonna do this because I know Todd has a spot on BBC in a couple of minutes. I want to thank retired veteran Mass State Police and security consultant Todd McGhee. He joins the show very frequently, and I love the fact that he could jump up here tonight and give us some expertise. Todd, thank you so much for coming up and helping us out here, and I'm sure that we'll see each other very, very soon.
Yeah, join the BBC link. I'm on at midnight, which is probably what 5 a.m., 6 a.m. their time. So, yeah, join on over when you have a moment.
I will. Yeah, we'll watch that. Thanks, Todd. I appreciate your expertise. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Mazza. Good to see you, brother. Take care.
Good to see you, Todd. Take care of yourself. All the best on BBC.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Nice to see Todd. When Todd can come up. Mazza Media in the house, man.
That's right.
It's been forever.
I know it's probably going to be brief tonight, but yeah, man, this is kind of just a shocking night. I was sitting down, I was watching John Cena wrestle tonight, so I wanted to focus on that, and I'm like, I got to switch over and watch that on tonight. But
It's his last match tonight, right?
that's it. That's what they're saying. Yeah, that was it. You know, so it's too bad. But
Who did he wrestle?
Gunther.
Okay. All right. So this is it.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough to leave that. Like, if you're doing that for so long and then just to just stop, you know,
Oh yeah.
that's got to be really tough for him. You know, he was just recently on Rogan and he made this comment. Yeah, he made this comment about, you know, my last match is going to be on, I guess, the 13th or the 15th. And he said, the sad thing about it is in a couple of weeks, they won't even remember me. Like, it's how quick that cycle in wrestling is.
Yeah. It's getting back to these kids here that are on campus. You know, imagine the threat that they might be feeling right now.
Oh,
if
yeah.
a potential student had been the culprit in all of this, but you know, or for all you know, it could be a student that lives off campus as well. You know, so there's always that situation. Then, of course, you always have the you know, the absolutely random shooter as well, that, you know, just comes from out of nowhere with some kind of motive. So it's a very uncomfortable feeling, that's for sure. So it's I'm just hoping this will be a nicely contained situation by police, meaning when they do locate the suspect, that they'll be able to contain him without, you know, that this doesn't spiral into what we saw happen with the Boston Marathon bombing, where it just spilled to MIT, it spilled to Watertown. You know, there was explosives. You know, I don't project that's going to happen here, but again, you never know. I mean, you never know. But, I don't think so in this situation, given this appears to be just a standard shooting where the Boston Marathon was those guys were well crafted with their attack on the marathon and as well as the explosives they were igniting on the streets of Watertown. But this is, you know, obviously we want to see this guy taken down as quickly as possible. You know, which is, you know, again, this distinct walk was also pointed out on Channel 5 just minutes ago as well before I came on. But yeah, you know, I think this being a little bit of daylight at this point, obviously, is favorable too, because they were asking residents for any doorbell footage they have, any kind of security cam footage they might have, and I think if they can potentially, you know, track that down through that, and again, a lot of businesses, as you're seeing right there,
right?
You know,
yeah.
As you know, you've been there. You know, a lot of businesses in the area too, so they can pick them up and quickly trace down the path, and they can get them traced down to an exact. You know, I think someone in the chat said, you know, they might have had them pinned down to, or traced down to a certain area. That's good. I like the police setup quite a bit. I thought they really did a great job of shutting down a lot of the streets. Even in the overhead shots of the area, you could see police, you know, really blocking off a lot of streets, really kind of cordoning off that area of Providence, you know, to give themselves the best opportunity. But the only problem is that when you don't know who you're looking for, you know, they can always slip through the cracks so easily. There's backyards, there's, you know, you just never know. And that's the scary part about all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary. And the thing is like, I only live 15 minutes from there. I literally could go down to the area, but I'm like, they're not letting anybody in down there. And I don't want to confuse the situation.
No.
And I don't want to be around, you know, where there's an active shooter either. So,
right. Exactly.
You know, all those factors. Let's do this. Let's change over to BBC. Todd's going to be jumping up there in a second. Let's watch his segment. Anytime you're going to jump out, just let me know. I'm going to try to
I'll drop off now. Actually, that way I'll let you get going with this segment. And hey, man, good seeing you, and great coverage as well, man. And we'll catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to let everybody know we get about 450 people watching us on YouTube. I appreciate you. About 3,600 watching us on X, and then my fine friends of 8 on Facebook. Nice to see you all. If you haven't, please go over, subscribe to Mazza Media. Help him out on his YouTube channel. You can find him there on YouTube and also on X under that as well. Mazza Media, thanks for jumping on this evening. We're going to continue our coverage here of the shooting at Brown University. We still have an active shooter situation, and they're telling all students in all residencies in and around the Brown University area to shelter in place. Mazza will catch up pretty soon.